Sup, Nerdmigos? I'm the disembodied voice of the Jive talking to John Norgrove. We've got Wife here, and today we are doing another wife jive. Look at all these jives made of wives, or what have you.
I feel like we're making Scotch eggs. Yeah, I don't know what you're doing. We're just gonna ignore that.
Oh,
we're doing Scotch eggs.
I'm drinking and running a camera, so I'm not doing very much at all.
He's got the easy job.
Yeah, except I have to edit this fucking thing.
Yeah, that's true. I have the easy job. I just stand here and look pretty
and cook,
and then maybe tell you guys how to do some stuff. So this is Scotch eggs. So Scotch eggs is another fun recipe that you can do that doesn't really need a recipe. Basically my favorite things to cook. So Scotch eggs consists of roughly 3 parts. We got hard-boiled eggs. And we want them to not be super hard. You want them to actually be a little bit soft.
Yeah.
So
you want them to be a little. Okay. Well, let's first describe what is a Scotch egg.
So a Scotch egg is a hard-boiled egg that is enrobed in ground meat and then cooked.
Word of the day: enrobed.
Enrobed. So we're gonna start with some hard-boiled eggs.
Like medium hardness, you were saying?
Like soft. You want these to be super soft. Yeah.
Basically, the eggs are going to have to be cooked twice.
Yes.
So that's why you want them to be like soft-boiled eggs.
Otherwise, they're going to get the green sulfur ring around them, and that's not really a problem, but it doesn't look quite as pretty when you open it up.
And they become like chewy.
A little rubbery, yeah. So you want to start with some soft-boiled eggs, and you want them to be cooled completely. That is, doesn't matter when you hard-boiled them, but they need to absolutely be cool in the center. So I usually...
absolute zero, like frozen solid?
No, that would be gross. So I usually do my hard-boiled eggs the day before I make Scotch eggs, just so I can make sure that they're all ready to go. So these eggs have already been peeled, and then we also have ground meat. In this case, this is ground pork, and you can also use ground beef. You can use ground any kind of meat you want. But one thing you need to keep in mind is the more fat content in your meat. So we've got ground turkey on the less fat side, and we've got ground pork on the most fat side. The more fat is in your meat, the more the meat robe shell is gonna shrink. So you want to have it thicker for a fattier meat and thinner for a less fatty meat.
2 things. 1, I feel offended by being called fucking the fattiest of the meats. Fucking pork sausage over here. Second of all,
I thought you were a pork cutlet.
There we go, pork cutlet. I feel like a cloak. I feel like we call it a cloak.
I don't like that. That feels vaguely sexual, and I'm not really sure why.
Cloak?
So, yeah. So we're just going to get into it.
We've been watching a lot of vampire stuff recently. She's confused. Please ignore.
So this is one of those cool things where you can really make Scotch eggs taste however you want. So you can have them be like Mexican style by adding like taco seasonings and other Mexican seasonings. You can have them be Indian by adding curry powder. You can have them be Middle Eastern by adding Middle Eastern spices. You can have them be more American really by putting in more American spices. So you can really see that this is something that you can kind of take for just anything.
Spice? Kraft singles?
American meat spice. Okay. Lowry's seasoned salt.
I'll give you that. It's just salt, guys. Don't believe
So I'm going for a fairly traditional American style taste on this. We've got some garlic powder. We've got some onion salt. We've got some salt. We got some pepper, and we have some sage in here also. So that's what's in the meat. And then we also have a little flour mixture here. So this is flour that's been mixed with seasoned salt. This is kind of your time to give it a little bit of extra oomph. So the process is you're going to take your hard-boiled egg once it's been shelled, and you're going to...
Let's get in on this. Close-up shot.
Close-up. Woo!
Camera 5.
So you're going to take your hard-boiled egg. You're going to take this hard-boiled egg. You're going to roll it around in this flour mixture until it's dry to the touch. And this is going to help the meat stay on the egg. So you're going to take your egg, and now you're going to take a handful of meat, like a literal handful of meat. And then you're just going to press this egg into it.
Could one call it a wad of meat?
A wad of meat. And then you're just going to sort of form
massage the meat into the cloak around
you're
the egg.
getting really grossly sexual about this. And then you're just going to continue to do this. Now, as you do this, you can feel the egg inside, and you want it to be kind of like in the center. That is, you don't want like a really thick spot and like a really thin spot.
Evenly
so
distributed.
Once you've done that, you take your meatball, and then you roll it back through this flour mixture again to coat it. And you kind of make that a little bit nicer again. And then I'm going to put that with the pile of the rest of them. So, from start to finish, you go like so. And then like so.
So
we're going to take a handful of meat.
You gotta first you gotta dry up the egg, then you gotta gloop up the egg, then you gotta meat up the egg.
And we're meating the egg.
Also, traditionally these are deep fried. So think of this as the functional Scottish equivalent of like a hamburger or a pita pocket or a burrito,
corn dog. They're like Scottish corn dogs.
Sushi. It's either way. It's
what like sushi?
Sushi supposed to be like you can hold with your hands. You don't need a utensil to eat.
Oh,
The point of a Scotch egg, in the grand scheme of things, is like just like a nice healthy meal that you can just kind of like dip in some mustard and eat while you're on the go, kind of a thing.
It's kind of like a sandwich.
Yeah, it's sort of like a sandwich or a burrito or any of the different cultural, hand things. Right? So these are also traditionally deep fried, although the way we do it, we just bake them, so we don't need to add like a bunch of extra oil. But as you can very clearly see, we don't need extra oil because we use fucking pork sausage, so fatty boom baladdy over here. Which is pretty good. But I've had them both fried and baked many times, and honestly, I think they're kind of low-key better baked than fried. So, we're done with that
Next, we're going to arrange them nicely.
Next, we arrange them nicely on the thingy.
Onto the thing. It may be tempting for you to want to use a rack to put these on. Don't do that, because it's going to fall through the rack. The meat is going to fall through the rack, like hanging down here, and then it's going to cook. And then it's going to solidify, and then you're going to have to try to rip the thing off the rack. Don't ask me how I know. It's just a hunch.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely not because we've ruined some fucking Scotch
So
eggs.
now we've got these eggs with some room, and we're going to preheat our oven to 375 degrees. And once the oven is preheated, these babies are going to go right in.
Let's preheat that to 375.
I have meat hands, and I can't touch the oven right now. Do you see this? Meat hands. It's a good idea to have a moist paper towel next to you to wipe your hands on when you're doing this. I didn't do that.
Fuck the system. 380. Nah, I'm just kidding. We'll make it. There you go. You saw my hands in the video. 375. All right, and we will see you on the flip side, which is
when we flip
baking.
the eggs.
How long do they bake for this first round?
They bake for about 15 minutes.
Open.
And then that's because there's cupcakes, there's birthday cupcakes in the oven right now.
The door's open because the door's open here. I'll just pan over to these meat wads.
So you're going to bake these in the oven for about 10 or 15 minutes. You'll start to notice that it gets the meat is starting to get a little brown, but not like golden brown, and you'll see that there's a puddle of oil around it, and then you just kind of want to go in and you want to flip it after about 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay,
so we're going to see you guys in 10 or 15 minutes.
375, 10 or 15 minutes. We'll catch you on the 10 or 15 minute side of the flip.
All right. So it's been a pretty good amount of time, and I'm going to pull these guys out of the oven so I can flip them. As you can see, not all of them are perfect because that's the way that life is. So these ones that you can see the bit of the egg on the outside, that's because it was too thin. And also because the ground meat I was using was probably a little bit too cold. So I'm just going to flip these guys onto their side as best as I can. Some of them will end up a little bit more upside down, and some of them won't. That's the beauty of it. When you do these in the in a stovetop setting, either with a deep fryer or with a cast iron skillet with some oil, then you want to turn them a lot more frequently. But in the oven, it's going to take a million years for you to do that. So you only flip them once or twice. So now these guys are going to go back in for the remainder of the time, which is going to be about a half an hour. So I was like, oh, okay. All right, so it's been about a half hour or so, and we are taking these guys out of the oven. You can see that a lot of these have split open. Again, that's really due to using a fatty meat and not having a big enough one. Really, what I should have done is only done 6 instead of trying to push it and go 8. Or I should have cut this with hamburger meat, which is normally what I do, is about half hamburger meat, half pork, and an egg or 2 in there to bind it together. But it tastes delicious regardless of whether it's cracked or not, and that's all that really matters. So once you've got your egg, you want to do up your plate all nicely.
So as an aside, one of the things real quick, I'm just going to interrupt. I know, knifey, stabby time. Oftentimes what I have found is that a thicker coat of meat will help with the cracking, as well as the introduction of like less of a flour on the outside and more of almost a breadcrumb.
That does sometimes
sometimes way
help.
breadier will help because it like tacks it together. Really, what you want on the outside of this is probably technically closer to meatloaf than just like a piece of breakfast sausage. But
you could do it with meatloaf too. That's the beauty of this, is you can do it with anything. All kinds of ways.
You can also do it without an egg in the middle and just call it a Scotch some other bullshit.
Well, then it wouldn't be a Scotch egg.
I mean, but like if you were one of those people who doesn't eat eggs.
Oh, then just make meatballs.
No, you can still put something in the middle that's like an egg.
Like what?
I don't know. Whatever those fucking people eat. You know the people I'm talking about. You know who you are.
I don't know.
All
right, we're gonna cut this guy open.
People.
So, John has prepared his plate. And
come on, focus, you fuck.
You can see you get this beautiful little core here. And then it's served. You can dip this egg in a variety of things. You can do mustard like he's got here, barbecue sauce. You can also whip up like a mayonnaise kind of a sauce. That's really good if you use curry with it. You can do ketchup. You can just eat it plain like it is. Fun fact, when we got married, I made 300 of these and probably had 100 left over. I don't even know how.
Oh, I did,
and
like,
we were eating them every day for like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, wrap it in a pancake. Let me tell you the fuck what. You make this shit for breakfast, boys. You wrap that shit in a fucking pancake. That's where the fucking sauce is at. Right
we would
there.
take a bite of it, but it's literally molten hot. These were just pulled from the oven,
steaming.
and I can see the steam. I don't know if you can see the steam.
Nope,
if you're not eating all of your Scotch eggs at once, just make sure that whatever you're cooking them on, that you kind of like turn them so that they don't get stuck to the bottom of the pan, because you don't want to have to try to rustle it off to the bottom of the pan. And that is Scotch eggs.
And that's Scotch eggs. So, how do I normally do this? Boy, it's late. Don't forget to like this video.
Don't forget to share, comment, and hit subscribe. And also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever it is that you're doing there. Yeah. And keep an eye out for new videos.
Yeah, so either way, like, comment, share, subscribe. I've been the disembodied voice of John Norgrove. That has been Wife.
And this has been a wacky edition of Scotch Eggs.
This has been Scotch Eggs. Maybe they're not going to succeed that well. But they still taste good, and that's all that really fucking matters in the grand scheme of things. So either way, we'll catch you guys on the flip side. And if you have any food-based things you want us to cook, let us know. We have a pretty diverse library of foods that we cook.
Yep.
Maybe one day I'll make gumbo for y'all. It's going to be like a 45-minute video.
Oh my god, it's going to be so many dishes.
It's so much.
It's going to be so many dishes.
Oh god, I don't know how to make gumbo for less than like fucking 20 people. So.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, either way, we'll see ya.